Greetings everyone, Michelle Granberg here. Welcome to Positive Energy, enlightening television for the evolving soul. Our topic on this show is positive psychology, where traditional psychology mainly focuses on people's issues, problems, and weaknesses. Positive psychology mainly focuses on one's inner strength and rests on the premise that every human is hardwired for happiness and success. I'm joined by Bratso Pobrick, author, positive psychology coach, and happiness expert. This show is sure to make you smile. Positive Energy starts right now. So I'm here with Bratso Pobrick, author of Habits and Happiness and expert on happiness. And we're going to talk about happiness and many other topics. I think it's a great topic. I need to know more, and others do as well. So welcome.
Thank you, Michelle.
So tell us about your background in training a little bit.
Sure. So I am a certified positive psychologist, certified neuro-linguistic practitioner, and also former globally certified Dale Carnegie trainer and business coach. So, and all of this really I do and I've done just for fun in my what I call free time. I still have a full-time job. I work as an executive in a large financial firm. And I do something that has nothing to do with psychology.
That's your day job.
That's my day job, which is really like managing all the global data centers for electronic trading. That's exciting as well, but not as happiness.
Not as exciting as happiness.
No, not as exciting.
So that by IT by day, finance by day, and happiness by night.
I try to bring that.
No, it's across the board. Just try to bring it in.
Yeah, trying to bring it in.
So I first heard about positive psychology many years ago. And became interested. I actually went to school for counseling and psychology, but what is positive psychology really, and what makes it different than traditional or other forms of psychology, and why is it important for us to know about it?
Good point. So if we look at traditional psychology, right, it is really concerned about what is wrong with us. It is concerned about getting us, from -10 to somewhere to 0 so that we can function, right? Nothing wrong with that. We need it. There's nothing, so I just want to make it clear so that certainly that psychology and going back to Freud, and absolutely need it. What positive psychology is concerned about, it's all about what's right with us rather than what's wrong with us. It's about what's right with organization rather than what's wrong. Yeah. It's about taking us from that 0 or -2, -3 to +2, to +3, to +5, right? So it's a complementing traditional psychology. There is certainly, I truly believe that at one point, the name positive psychology just sounds a little funny for some. It's psychology, right? It is just that, concern about what's right with us. And that's why some people get confused. Why positive psychology? What does it really mean?
Yeah. Yeah, because people might say, isn't all psychology positive? It is trying to help. And it's not that the old psychology is negative psychology at all. It's just that this is almost a more evolved form of it. And it's not just dwelling on what's as if we're broken. It's saying there's more right about us, there's more wellness about us, there's more wholeness about us than there is not.
Correct. That is so true. And it's important. And it's also not happyology. It's not about let's be happy all the time. It's not about let's just smile, right? So we need to understand, a lot of people just think that, this is just about being happy all the time. No, it's not. Only, crazy people, people who are mentally ill, if you will, are happy all the time. Yeah. We need to have all the other emotions. Yeah. But it's all about, our improved well-being. So not, if you look at everything, just overall well-being.
So, let's just mention the work of Dr. Martin Seligman, who I studied in school and absolutely loved. His book that became sort of a national phenomenon almost, called Learned Optimism. And I know I studied it, I wrote about it, and I know that learned optimism is sort of the essence of positive psychology in some ways. So talk about that. I mean, the idea that optimism is modeled for us or not modeled for us, but it is a skill that we can actually learn, and it is more to do with the way we frame events in life. So do you talk a lot about optimism, I imagine,
Sure.
in your work?
I certainly do. And actually, was it a year ago or 2 years ago, I was presenting at the World Congress of Positive Psychology where Martin Seligman and Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar were there. And certainly his work on optimism and PERMA, which we may touch base a little later on happiness model, is well known. People think that, some of us are born with more optimism. Some of us are born with more happiness gene. That's the fact, right? But we have to be careful with optimism too, because the way I see it, it really has to be based on something that happened in our life, right? So to give you an example, I am just generally more optimistic person. That's just my nature. I think my mom, I always say that she was positive psychologist before positive psychology was introduced, to this world, before Martin Seligman kind of put this on the world map. But it's important, so when I talk to my wife, often I used to say, don't worry, everything will be fine. But that doesn't work for her. She'll say, what do you mean everything will be fine? That doesn't work for a lot of people. So what we need to do is look at the history, go back and say, everything will be fine because, to give you an example, you have, we were in college and some of us failed the exam. So what the pessimist student will say, I failed this one, I'm a failure, I'm never going to pass this again, I just can't do anything in my life.
And once they say that to themselves, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It becomes true.
Right. That's one thing. And then what the optimistic student will say, I failed this because I didn't study hard. Right. Maybe I drank too much last night. But 3 months ago, I passed exam A because I had more sleep. I woke up early in the morning. I studied harder. So if I do that, I will. So that's really how we should base the optimism, based on our a past history that connect to it, so we know that we can make it happen rather than just.
It has to be grounded in reality.
Grounded optimism, that's what it is.
Yeah, it has to have a basis for it. We're not talking about thinking Pollyanna kind of thinking.
Exactly.
And wishful thinking and being disassociated from reality. But it really is how the dialogue we have with ourselves when anything happens. And the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. It's not that we're always one or the other, coming from optimism or pessimism. We can often be shades of both because we're human.
It's okay.
Hello.
Right.
Yeah. And it would tell us that, we're okay.
Right.
So positive psychology is evidence-based as well. There's science. What you're teaching people has already been tried out. There's methods. And it's been related to the brain and our physiology. So again, it's not pulling out of the blue. Mm-hmm. So talk a little bit about the connection between scientific methods and positive psychology and why that's important.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. Now, I'm just thinking as you ask this question, I'm thinking back of the days when I used to teach Dale Carnegie program, which most of your viewers know about, right?
Yeah, people have heard of Dale Carnegie.
Right, yeah. So, and again, I'm not comparing any programs. It's a great program, changes so many lives. Some of us look for science behind it. Some of us, and I'm an engineer, my background is engineering. So for some of us, we search for the science.
We need that.
We need that. Here in the Western world, that's what we need. For others, if you look at, for 2,500 years, if you look at the Buddhism and their tradition, we are now proving what they knew for thousands of years, right? But we need that proof. Now, right or wrong, we just need it, right? So now, can we do this without science? Yes, people have done it without science. Yeah. But in this, technology world, in this 24/7 access to everything and everyone, having a scientific proof that certain tools work with the thousands and hundreds of thousands of people really makes us, let me try. If I know there is a scientific, and what I do and a lot of my colleagues is, read hundreds of pages of papers and to pull out one paragraph that says, if you just ask your kid when they come from school, when he or she comes from school, instead of saying, how was your day? If you just ask a question, what went well in school? That totally changes the entire dialogue, right? So these little things that we can, that we know are scientifically proven that we can implement in our lives truly can change our lives. So that's why I think science is really important.
It is. It is in that way. You're right, because it makes people more open to it.
Right.
Yeah, it's not just opinion. There's some science behind it in that way.
And now we know, based on the, if you look at the science of neuroplasticity, now we know that our brain changes not only till we, 18, teenagers, 21, until the day we die. And it's all about what we do every day. It's all about, that's how our brain changes.
Yeah.
It's based on what we do, what we think, what we feel. Our brain changes.
It's about the choices
exactly.
that we make every day and what we focus on, what we reinforce. But thank goodness they came out with that science, the science of neuroplasticity, because before that, I think people really believed they were more of a victim in life, or they were fixed, or there was the idea of our personality is set by age 30 and there's nothing you can do about it. That whole, idea was out there, and now that's changed.
Right.
And so we're going to talk more about that, because your expertise is in habits and connecting habits to happiness, how interrelated they really are. So let's talk about the nature of happiness and put that frame on it. For so many people, happiness is elusive. It feels like something that's just out of their reach. You would probably say different. I would love to say different to people. So what are some of the keys? What do people need to know about happiness that they haven't considered?
Sure. So, Michelle, if you don't mind, before we go there, I just want to touch base. You mentioned fixed mindset, and I just want to touch base on work of Carol Dweck, which some of the viewers know, but others should really look into, deeper, and into the work of fixed mindset versus the growth mindset, and how we can truly help our kids, to really have that growth mindset rather than fixed. So, just wanted to mention, because I think it's really, really important, and it's about. I kind of mentioned that failing the exam and how we see it, and it's about really helping our kids to have that growth mindset, helping our kids to be ready that they can really do anything in life, that they can be anything, that their mindset can grow. And there was a lot of research that even just telling kids about the growth mindset, telling kids how their brain develops based on they do just that little thing, help them do better on the exams. So
what do you think it is about that? Again, just awareness and just being more conscious of things, just knowledge about how we actually operate is helpful.
I think it's all of it, right? And it's also connecting work of Bruce Lipton, who basically showed that, in his work of biology of belief, when we believe in something, when we truly believe that, our body all the way down to the cell level changes, which is like incredible. Years ago they all thought he's crazy, and now he's like the most well-known, researcher on belief. Like little Thomas, yes I can. Well, there's research behind it.
Yeah.
So very interesting stuff.
I'm glad that's come to that point where we can actually point to the research. So talk about happiness.
Okay.
And what do you think is most important for people that need to know about happiness so that they don't give up on happiness?
So happiness is really the individual thing, right? So it's what makes you happy may not make me happy, right? That's reality.
True.
However, there are things that improve our overall well-being regardless of our belief. So to give an example, exercise, right? They call it the magic bullet. And there was actually a great talk by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar, who talks about, would you take a pill if you know that pill would, help you with your stress, decrease your cholesterol, help you with your blood sugar, help you with all these things, right? And that's the exercise. Now, exercise doesn't mean you have to run for 2 hours. It's just a movement. Right? So I'm just giving an example. This is what brings us overall well-being. And when we do something for ourselves, the other day somebody asked me, said, well, but that's only for your own happiness. But it's not, because when I'm happier, when I go to work, right, happier in the morning, I can help others, right? Unconsciously, don't go to work to help others, but because I come with more positive attitude, because I help myself first thing in the morning by doing exercise, by meditating. In effect, then I'm helping other people.
So there's sort of a muscle that you build for being happy. It's choices that we make. It's a lot of knowing the unconscious habits that we're in, right? And it's much more than a feeling, because people think happiness is just a feeling that, oops, maybe I'll be happy, maybe I won't, that it's just sort of random, but it's not.
So what people usually confuse is happiness and joy.
Okay.
Right? So feeling joyful is you can go out and have an ice cream and have that happiness moment, a joy. But that's a joy. It's a part of a happiness, but it's not your overall happiness. Probably, I mean, one of the best, and you mentioned Dr. Martin Seligman, happiness model is what he called PERMA. So do you want to spend a couple of minutes on PERMA?
Yeah.
So PERMA stands for P is for positive emotions, right? So we need more of positive emotions in our life, certainly, right? E stands for engagement. So basically being in a flow, as Dr. Mihail Csikszentmihalyi calls it. If you think of when you were a kid and you played, what did you play as a kid? I played soccer. I don't know what you did.
I didn't play a sport, but I used to like to be in plays and play music.
There we go.
Just play pretend.
So you played the music or you were in a play. You were in the moment. You didn't think of past. You didn't think of future. You didn't think who's going to be best in this play. You were in the play. That's the flow. We need more of these moments. We need to be more in the present, right? We can connect mindfulness to be in the flow, be in the present moment.
That's part of the formula for happiness.
That's part of the formula. Number one predictor of happiness, that R, is relationships. Now, I'm not talking about Facebook relationships. I'm talking about real, true relationships, right? And people also confuse relationships with, just with your partner. It doesn't have to be. A relationship could be with a stranger, right? You meet somebody on the street for 2 minutes and you establish that relationship. Bingo. You feel happy. You feel the joy, right? So we need more relationship. M stands for meaning. Especially as we get older, I know I am. We're kind of looking for that meaning in life, but it's really not only that big meaning. It's really, it's not only like, why am I here, right? But it's really meaning of what we do. This work that you and I do, for me, is a truly meaningful work. For me, is bringing this science that is not easily accessible to thousands of people. Because let's be honest, to go to UPenn, it costs $60,000. How many people can afford this? So taking this down to the street, for me, this is so meaningful. So meaningful, bringing it here, right?
Yeah.
And then the last one, A, is achievement. All of us, we're human beings. We meant to achieve something. There was a lot of studies where they would have the students just sit down and do nothing and pay them, and the other group, they would pay them, but no, they wouldn't even pay them, but they would have them do the work. And one group says, just have us do some work. We can't handle this anymore, right? We meant to achieve, to do something. And we all know that, right? When we achieve something, we feel better. So that's really that overall happiness model. It's all of it. I
think we could all agree with that. Again, that it's a human model, a human formula for the universality of what we're all seeking in this life. And so say those again. So P is positive emotions.
E is engagement or flow. R is relationships. M is meaning.
And A is
achievement. So that's one of the well-known, that's Martin Seligman's model that we all follow, PERMA. That's really well-known model.
So if maybe we could just focus on one of those areas at a time, bringing more of that into our lives is certainly very doable. So let's talk about sort of the premise of your book, where you talk about habits. And for you, habits are really the secret to happiness as well. Those little habits that we're not aware of, and changing those habits. So talk a little bit about habits, what they are, what they really are, and can they be changed? Yes. How do you go about doing that so that you're more happy?
Good. So if you think of habits, what are the habits? Habits are things we do, right? Those are the physical habits. Easy to explain, right? Emotions we have, right? Sad, believe it or not, they become habits. Thoughts we have. So in overall, there are three groups, right? Physical habits, emotional habits, and thinking habits. And there's a fourth group which I introduced, and I call it the circle habits. And I think a lot of my colleagues, after reading my book and studying, actually use this with their clients, and they think it really is working. And I'll tell you what it is. So have you ever, let's say you told yourself, well, tomorrow I'm going to start exercising, or I'm going to eat better, or whatever, right? Tomorrow comes, you go, well, I'll do it next week. Next week comes, you go, well, I'm on vacation, I'll do it next week, right? And so on. So basically, those are the circle habits. We keep telling ourselves we'll do something, but we don't.
Yeah.
And that
So
is
vicious cycle.
not good for us.
Yeah.
Because, right, first of all, we didn't do what we said we're going to do, right? Which is not good. And then we drive ourselves crazy because we didn't do what we said we're going to do. So what I tell people is you really have two choices. Choice number one is Nike. Just do it.
Just do it.
Not easy.
Break,
Easily said
break
and
the
done,
cycle.
right? And choice number two is put it off until you're ready. And I'm not saying tell yourself I'll never do the exercise, but if you know, like I did, that you work 18 hours a day and you need to sleep and you need to eat a little bit, so you say, well, when my day goes to whatever, 15 or whatever it is, then I'll start exercising. So again, it's really, really important. So that's really kind of like overall, about habits. Now, there is a little secret that basically, when we create a habit, we create this neural pathway in our brain, right? And what happens is, it's really weird, but we can never delete that neural pathway. It's always there. So we can only replace it, meaning that, I know we don't have a lot of time, but meaning that, I replaced drinking soda with drinking water, right? So I had all the same trigger, and we can spend a little more time on that. But there is, something triggers it, and you do what you do, right? And then you have this routine, which is what you do, and then you have reward at the end. And the reward that you get may be good for you, may not, because your brain can't really focus on the long-term reward. Meaning that if we go to diner now, and apology for vegetarians and people who don't eat meat, but let's say we have a big burger, right? And we just, I kind of see the big picture, I like that, I'm gonna have it. My brain can't focus on, that's not good for you long-term, because it focuses on the short-term, right? So it still gives me the reward, right? But it's not good for me. So people get confused. What do you mean reward if it's not good for you? It's because the brain really cannot focus. So there are ways that you can basically trick your brain to focus on a short-term goal.
So the key is to find a short-term reward, an immediate reward, because that's what we're seeking.
Exactly.
When we think that we're getting reward from the poor habit, we get some little rush out of that, I guess, but then ultimately it doesn't serve us in the long run.
Correct. So you may, trick your brain and say, okay, yes, you really do want this big juicy burger, but remember last week when you had it and you went back to the meeting, you were so tired and exhausted, so don't have it, right? Because you can't just say, well, 2 years from now, it doesn't work like that. So you have to really focus on short-term goal.
Okay, all right. So the tool out of that people can try right now is to just maybe write down some of the habits they'd like to change, and then just be very realistic and very short-term about it, and think about not fighting against the habit itself, but just overlapping on that habit with something more productive, more healthy.
Right. Well, yeah, no, you're right. But, I mean, there are so many tools, right? so the question is, ideally, right? Everybody, what we really want to do is sit down, and because we don't think of these things, why? Because they're habits. We don't think of them. We don't think when we tie our shoelaces.
No.
We don't. When you open the door in your house, do you open the door this way or this way? Do you remember? You have to think. You see?
I have to think about it.
Right?
It's on the door.
Because we just open it.
They're
We
habits.
come home and we open the door. So what we can do is, as the first thing, sit down and think about our day, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. What do we do, right? What are our habits? So when I wake up, what do I do? And just go down the list. And then highlight and you say, what habits I want to keep, right? So and what habits I don't want to keep. And if you don't want to keep, what am I going to replace it with? So that's the one tool. And the other one is if you want to create a new habit, so we can spend a minute or two on new habit, how do we create that new habit? How do we establish it?
Nice. Nice. So you cover a lot of that in your book, I imagine.
Yes.
Do you want to say anything else about your book?
Yes. So it's what it is the book is really organized on, it's based on scientific research, right? But more importantly, it is based on my life, meaning that I studied for years science of positive psychology and all the research. And then what I did is I picked up tool by tool and I tried in my life. If it worked, I put it in there. If it didn't, I didn't put it in there. Now, it doesn't mean that all these tools will work for you or for the readers, but I guarantee few will. So the idea is really to look at first, how do you change your habits, how do you create the new ones, and then try some of the tools and see what works. I mean, one of the things I know come up so often in my workshop is, people want to exercise, or people want to eat healthier food, or people, so we could, I don't know how much time we have, but we could walk through some of these.
We only have a couple minutes.
Yeah, it's okay. It's just so much to cover.
Well, there is a lot to walk through in all of that, but really, at least it's encouraging to hear that we have so much potential. That's really the message that we want to drive home, that we don't want people to feel helpless and hopeless in their lives, that happiness is a muscle that you build that has a lot to do with just being aware, right? And setting goals and intentions to change things little by little. But you must tell people a lot, don't judge yourself around any of that. Don't pressure yourself, don't judge yourself, don't beat yourself up, because then you're going to really defeat the purpose.
That's the key. You can't beat yourself up, but you have to start very small. You see, some of us can just do cold turkey and stop something. Others, it takes time. So you want to start exercising. Don't say to yourself, I'm going to do 45 minutes every day from now on. Start with a minute, 2 minutes. Just look at the treadmill and stalactite and say, good, I'm done for today. Next day, I look at the treadmill and walk for a minute. Good, I'm done for today. And what happens is you get a little dopamine, the happy chemical, and that keeps you going. That's what you need. You need to figure out how to get your own happiness chemical without going to a drugstore, right? And we can, and that's really the key.
And that's
to
where it really
happiness.
starts to roll, just those little achievements.
Yes.
And looking at your day and saying, what did I do well today? I love that you
Yes.
say, ask kids that
Yeah.
at the end of their day. What went well today? What was the best part of it?
Right.
In that way, and take out of it, there's no demerits for who we are and what we're doing each day. There's only credit.
Right.
We get only the positive on that side of it in that
Right.
way. So do you have sort of a final message that you'd love to leave people with, if you could?
Sure. So the key is that all of us truly can find happiness. And the other key is that a lot of people don't talk about, don't just keep searching for happiness crazy. That's really not the point. The point is to find the things that make you happier, look back in your life and say, what did make me happy? Did going to theater make me happy? Yes. Let me buy, save money, buy a ticket for Broadway. Did going to just a small weekend vacation make me happy? Did doing things for others make me happy? Yes. Help other people. Being kind to other people, doing some unexpected kindness. Those are the things that we know based on the research makes people happy. So just do something good for others rather than just thinking of yourself, and that in turn will not only make other people happy, but will also make you happy as well.
Beautiful message. Pay it forward. Be kind to one another. Thank you so much. This has been a really wonderful conversation, and I know that there's so much more. I hope people will check you out and buy your book. And I just want to thank you for being here and for the work that you're doing in the world.
Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. High
Thank you.
five. Woo, fist bump. No.